One more aspect of the question that was asked was immigration, was attracting people from outside the country here. There's been a long-standing discussion about that in Cleveland in particular and in the region at large. You mentioned Mayor Jackson. He comes under some criticism for saying, let's take care of our own and then worry about the immigration issue. Others believe it's a way to have a robust community, to replace population, to bring in ideas. And I wonder what your thoughts are on attracting immigrants to Northeast Ohio.
My grandfather came from Hungary, and so he was my mom was first generation, and so I am pretty well committed to the idea and the concept that this community was growing on the strength of immigrants coming here. We gave them a reason to be here. We need to foster that. I know that the Global Cleveland has an objective to throw out a big tent and to be inclusive, and because we have gaps, and we have a lot of gaps here in workforce and development and training and expertise. Wouldn't we love to have some of those engineers from India, the engineers from China, come here and be part of our global community? And so I think that, yes, you want to make sure, I don't think those are mutually exclusive. It doesn't say that because I want to encourage filling of those technology and skills gaps through encouraging immigrants to come here means that I have to disregard other parts of our community. I don't think you can. We have to make sure we're doing both, because if an immigrant comes here and sees that we're not taking care of those folks who are in need, they're not going to want to be here either. So we have to make sure we're addressing both aspects of it.
Next question.
Jack, right now the county council is 8 Democrats and 3 Republicans, so you're in a kind of a comfortable minority there. But if you become the chief executive, you're going to be facing presumably a strong Democratic majority. How do you expect to get things done in that political configuration?
Well, I think I don't want to sound overly confident, but, well, actually, when we were early on in the game, before we had actually selected leadership, I said, I think I should be the vice president. And knowing that 8's probably bigger than 3, I knew that probably wasn't going to happen. But it did set the tone. I wanted to say that I didn't come to count hubcaps or just to watch the snow melt. And so I had conversations with the leadership, and they were very receptive. I think that if you want to look at anything of the most success that we have as a county on this new form of charter government, it's the 11 of us work well together. We coordinate, we operate. I mean, we're going to take votes that are not in agreement, but I almost can guarantee you, if you go back and look at the last 3.5 years worth of voting, and you read the issue, you won't be able to pick out where the 11 of us were voting on most of those issues unless you went back to the record and see, because we are on all sides of the issues. We are discussing it ecumenically. We're actually having great conversations. Sometimes the other side's wrong, but that's okay. We'll fix that. No, just in seriousness, we don't have any right or wrong. That's the good news about it. We just have differences of opinion, and even on issues that come up that are controversial, we still walk away and shake hands. And Dan Brady and I, he and I have become good friends. I think almost to I want to say the Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan type, but we've got a very positive collegial background. I don't think that there would be any resistance whatsoever of the two of us of the council and an executive from a different party working together. Another reason why we shouldn't even have parties up there at that point anyway.
You'd be Reagan in that relationship?
Yeah, I would hope that I'd be the executive as opposed to the legislator.
What about the way? What about the way council works now with the executive? And you mentioned some of the collegiality that you have, but is county council a good checks and balance, or is it, since it agrees so often with what's being put forward, essentially a rubber stamp?
Oh no, we're definitely not a rubber stamp. I think you can tell that by the way we push back on issues and some things that even on where there might even be some votes that you want to put forth to make, they're strictly those feel-good votes out there. We're not even bringing those up. They started the first year, everybody said, this is crazy. We don't want to waste our time, the community's time, to have those votes. What do you think about an initiative in Washington, D.C.? Legislators sometimes get into that. we skipped all that step out there. As far as the current executive and council leadership, that's another subject. I'll stay away from that one.
Okay. Next question, sir.
Yes, Jack, hi, Patrick McLaughlin. Over the generations, Cuyahoga County has sent large numbers of its men and now women off to military service, particularly in time of war. Now our veterans or servicemen and women are coming back to Cuyahoga County. Many of them are hurting. They have problems and difficulties. And as county executive of this county, what can you do to aid their transition back to this community?
And this was not a setup question. Trust me on this, but it's one of my beliefs that I do intend to introduce, and that is that we have set-asides now for county contracting in the areas of minority business, female business, small business. I truly believe that we should have a set-aside for those who have given the most to this country and have made the highest dedication, those business owners who are coming as veterans. And I think I would be prepared to do that as a county executive. It's one of my first steps, is to do a set-aside that says our contracting for things like this convention center, like the hotel, should be part of that. But that's only a small step. We need to be encouraging and finding things like housing support. We need to be finding things like the way which we handled. We actually did the thing to push back and change some state law in regards to the Veteran Service Commission. We had excess funds come back. In the past, they just rolled into the general fund. We said, let's stop that. These monies were intended for veterans. They were designed for veterans. They were set aside for veterans. It's in the state charter that these dollars come in there. And so we created special veterans programs on a yearly basis to identify that. And that was a council-driven thing. That was not driven by the executive office. The executive supported it, but it was council-driven. And so now we have particular items. One of the items that I am convinced all my colleagues to do is that we should be using some of those dollars in the future to build a Fisher House, and we should be putting those monies in there. We are the only major veterans hospital in the country that doesn't have a Fisher House sitting next to it.
Next question, sir.
Good afternoon, Councilman. My name is Ron O'Leary. I'm the Assistant Director with the Cleveland Building Department. Over the last 8 years, the city has torn down over 7,000 structures, and it's cost us about $60 million. It's mainly to eliminate blight, but it does set the table for future development. I wanted to ask you your thoughts on the proposal that the county executive put forth at the State of the County speech a few weeks ago about the $50 million demolition bond.
Anytime you demolish property, as you're probably on the inside of this information, there's a balancing act between tearing down the blight, because I work with the folks on that directly, because I'm looking at putting the Fisher House on a piece of property that's been reclaimed out of that same situation out there. You have the neighbors that say, tear the house down because it's blighted, it's in my neighborhood. Those who say, fix the house up because it shows another gap in our community that might never get filled. And I'm sure you wrestle with that balancing act out there. At this point, I think that the conversation makes a lot of sense. I want to be part of it. I want to make sure this is $50 million that has to be repaid. This is a $50 million note that the county is being asked to put on, and unlike the $100 million fund, those are actual loans that are being repaid by borrowers. This is money that will, as I understand the program, will not be repaid. It's going to come out of our bonding, so it's just going to mean that we're going to be paying for it over a long period of time. There's value in obviously, right now we put in $7 million into the rehab right now out of our county budget. He's asking us to put another $50 million in. I think that it has not been presented to council. We don't have it on our table. It was one of these big picture items that has not come to us directly. Just like the $100 million fund and the Western Reserve Fund came to us as one of these kind of concepts without any meat and bones on it. It's our job to see whether it has merit, how we're going to pay for it. We're going to borrow this. This is going to be $50 million worth of bond notes, and then what are we going to be doing to make sure I don't want to see things being done for flash in the pan. I want to see things being done for legitimate long term.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Mr. Schron. My name